evaluation of pros and cons, a high-speed cost-benefit analysis, a near instantaneous predictive model about possible risks and scalability. 5 seconds go by, then 10, then 15. After about 30 seconds, he turns to me and says, "That'll never work." We've been doing this for a few weeks. Reed has been working overtime, finalizing a huge merger that'll put us both out of a job. And once the dust settles from that, I'm planning to start my own company. Every day in the car, I pitch ideas to Reed. I'm trying to convince him to come on board as an advisor or investor, and I can tell he's intrigued. He's not shy about giving me feedback. He knows a good thing when he sees it. He also knows a bad thing when he hears it. And my morning drive ideas? They're mostly bad ideas. Reed swats this one away just like he did the others. It's impractical. It's unoriginal. It'll never work. Also, baseball's popularity is waning with younger people, he says, as we roll to a stop behind a sand truck. The sand is on its way to San Jose, where it'll eventually be turned into concrete for roads and buildings in booming Silicon Valley. You don't want to be tied to a declining user base from the start. You're wrong, I say, and I tell him why. I've done my research, too. I know the numbers for sporting goods sales. I've looked into baseball bat production, how much the raw materials cost, how expensive it is to buy and operate the milling machine. And okay, I might have a personal connection to this idea. My oldest son just finished his rookie Little League season. For every one of my points, Reed has an answer. He's analytical, rational, and doesn't waste time with niceties. I don't either. Our voices are raised, but we're not angry. It's an argument, but it's a productive one. Each of us understands the other. Each of us knows that the other is going to offer stiff, uncompromising resistance. Your attachment to this idea isn't strictly rational, he says, and I almost laugh. Behind his back, I've heard people compare Reed to Spock. I don't think they mean it as a compliment, but they should. In Star Trek, Spock is almost always right. And Reed is too. If he thinks something won't work, it probably won't. The first time I met Reed, we were taking a cross-country plane trip from San Francisco to Boston. Reed had just acquired my company, but we'd never spent any meaningful time alone together. I'd been sitting at the gate, waiting to board, reading through a binder of materials on memory leak detectors and software version management, when someone tapped my shoulder. It was Reed. "Where are you sitting?" he asked, frowning at my paper ticket. When I told him, he took my ticket, marched to the counter, and upgraded me to first class. That was nice, I thought. I'll get a chance to read, relax a little, maybe even get a little sleep. But that was my first lesson about Reed. When the flight attendant came, he'd waved away the free mimosas, turned his body 90 degrees and locked eyes with me. Then, for the next 5.5 hours, he'd given an exhaustive overview of the state of our business, barely pausing to take a sip of sparkling water. I'd hardly gotten a word in edgewise, but I didn't care. It was one of the most brilliant business analyses I'd ever heard, like being hooked up to a supercomputer. We're not in first class anymore. We're in a Volvo that could use a wash. But I still find Reed's mind fascinating and his demeanor refreshing. I'm grateful for his advice, for the consulting I'm getting for free on these rides over the hill into Silicon Valley and back. By total luck, I've ended up in the same company and the same town with someone who understands my vision and can provide invaluable help, not to mention savings on gas. But it's still frustrating to hear that an idea I've spent a week researching is totally unfeasible. A part of me is starting to wonder if all of my business ideas are built on a foundation as unsteady and shifty as the sand loaded into the truck ahead of us. That truck, by the way, is still in the left lane, moving slowly, holding everybody up. I'm frustrated. I flash my lights. The truck driver looks at me in the rearview mirror, doesn't even react. I mutter a few irrational obscenities. "You need to relax," Reed says, gesturing to the traffic ahead of us. He's already told me, twice, that my habit of constantly changing lanes is, in the end,